Hello everyone, welcome to the first edition of Inside Vietnam. I'm your host Khanh, and today we have a very special guest from the subcultural community. She is one of the most important members of this subculture that not a lot of people know about it. She was interviewed by a Japanese TV channel and NHK International. Please give the warmest welcome to Miss Anne.
Thank you, Khanh, and hello everyone. My name is Anne and I'm one of the members of the Lolita Vietnam community.
And I wonder, your outfit is the Lolita dress, right?
Yes, it is.
Can you describe a little bit about it?
What I'm wearing today is called Lolita fashion. It's a fashion subculture that started in Japan, but it takes influence from Rococo and Victorian children clothing in Europe. As you can see, Lolita fashion features a very puffy dress, and we sometimes wear blouses also. And there are accessories which has a lot of ruffles and laces detail, and the overall look is very feminine, doll-like.
Oh wow, it's something from Japan. I thought it must be from Europe.
Oh yeah, many would assume so, but because of globalization, which is the process of international integration from the interchanging of products, ideas, and culture, especially in this case, many things from the West was brought to and enjoyed in Japan. The Japanese people adopt these elements into their cultures and immerse them with the Japanese aesthetic value of kawaii in this case, and thus create Lolita fashion.
I know that kawaii means good and is associated with childlike, adorable, innocent, or gentle, and such values. So how it mix with the Western element that you mentioned?
Oh yeah. At the first glance, Lolita fashion is like no doubt influence, a reflection of influence from European dress style, but one cannot ignore the cuteness in this fashion too. The Gothic or classic look is taken from the fashion history, but cuteness also plays a huge role in Lolita fashion also, and it does not limit itself to children. So that means that adults and adolescents can also enjoy this fashion too.
You mean there's a mixing and blending of different cultures or cultural hybridity in Lolita fashion?
Yeah, actually when you look at Lolita fashion, there is a lot of form of cultural hybridity. The style itself is a combination of a lot of fashion elements from different eras and different nations in fashion history. For example, it takes influence from 18th century French Rococo period, 19th century Victorian eras in England, 20th century, a little bit from 20th century Edwardian era of England too. And sometimes one can also see the influence of American fashion in the 50s also. And also depends on the sub-style of Lolita fashion. There's also mixed with other subculture also. For example, Gothic Lolita takes some influence, some elements from the Gothic subculture, for example, coffins, bats, roses, crosses. There's punk Lolitas, which takes elements from the punk subculture like chain, checkered pattern, studded, and safety pins. And there's Lolita, which makes Lolita fashion with Japanese traditional clothing, which is kimono. It represents, it shows at the long sleeve and the obi belt and so on.
Oh, that's so interesting. But you only can experience it in Japan?
No, actually, there's a community in Vietnam also. Because of thanks to the advancement of technologies and the deepening of globalization, there's a transnational cultural flow spread from Japan to Vietnam. In recent years, a lot of cultural consumers in Vietnam are obsessed with Japanese cultural products, especially manga and anime, and some of them find their interest lies in the Lolita fashion that sometimes features in those products.
So how many people are there in your community?
We have around 15 active members in Hanoi and about 20 in Ho Chi Minh City.
Oh, it's quite a small group. So, is it considered as a subcultural community?
Yes, of course. After all, subculture is a group of people within a culture that share the similar value and differentiate themselves from the larger, more complex social group. We think that the mainstream fashion is boring and sexist because you know how the media often portrayed women image being very sexy, wearing revealing clothes and expose much skin, and that is pretty much the standard of beauty of women in this modern society. The Lolita disagree with this ideal image. We value modesty over sexiness, femininity over practicality. We think that we want to go against the mainstream, and we believe that dressing up and being pretty is something that you do for your own satisfaction, not to attract men. The Lolitas we dress ourselves according to a strict guideline to protect this value. We share the similar point of view toward aesthetic, and thus we form a community where we can seek for each other companion.
So, as a community, what kind of activity do you often do?
We started as an online community, so many of our activities are done online. We have a Facebook page where fashion guidelines, tips, and news of Lolitas all over the world are posted. We have a fashion group. We have a Facebook group where people can discuss and learn how to coordinate well from each other, buy and sell their dresses and accessories. Sometimes we organize Lolita contests where people can compete with each other about their ability to coordinate an outfit well, get voted, and receive prizes. Apart from these online activities, we do organize offline one. To name a few, there are fashion show and fashion exhibition at Cultural Festival, fashion walk, and tea parties also.
You seem so very active, and your offline activities sound so fun.
Yeah, after all, this is a fashion community. Not to mention, the kind of fashion that we follow is kind of unusual. So we try to create chances for our members to wear their outfit outside more and show off their works, because we believe that each coordinate is a piece of art where the Lolita has to invest a lot of time and money and efforts to build it. So we want to encourage them to show it to the world.
I'd imagine that Lolita tea party would be very elaborate and elegant, and I really want to experience one.
Great timing, because we actually have a Christmas tea party today, and I can show you that.
Oh, really?
Let's go!
Tea party is one of the most popular activities of Lolita communities all around the world. Adopted from the afternoon tea practice in England, tea party was originally a social event for noble women to meet up and chit-chat. As Lolita fashion is closely related to the upper class in European history, they idolized the way of living back then and thus also immersed this activity into their lifestyle. In a fancy atmosphere with tea and cakes, they would dress up in their favorite Lolita outfits and escape from the mundane reality to enter a fantasy world. The way Lolita dress themselves represent the values that they treasure. The knee-length dress instead of mini-skirt, shoulders are covered and no cleavage is shown, signify the modesty, since unlike the sexy standard of beauty, which encourage women to show their skin, Lolita cover it up. The silhouette of bell shape or A shape signify cuteness and youth, because grown-up women are associated more with slim fit and pencil skirt that enhance the body curves. There are a lot of frills and lacy details. These represent the femininity value. In the recent years, mainstream designers give a lot of efforts to promote designs with sharp, simple cuts that give out a strong and masculine vibes. Opposite to that, Lolita clothing often features softer silhouette that shows girly and graceful feeling. The Vietnamese Lolita community consists of girls in their late teens and 20s. This is also the majority age group of Lolita over the world. Most of them get into the fashion subculture at the age that just passed adolescence and into adulthood, when they have to face with society's expectation upon them. Be an adult, be normal and responsible. because they are no longer children to have their way of behavior tolerated. They want to go against this ideology, prove their individuality, and Lolita fashion serve as escapism.
Well, to be honest, I still do wear normal clothes and I do feel comfortable in it, but I do like Lolita because this clothing, this style is way more festive and you have an opportunity to look like a doll, like a princess that I always wanted to do. That's the difference, I guess. When you do look like a princess, you do feel like a princess.
Well, actually, because I fall in love with Japanese culture for quite a long time, so that's why I do so many research about Japanese culture and I just discover about this kind of fashion and just fell in love with that. And the more I know about this fashion, the more I'm into it. So right now it has been already 4 years that I follow this kind of fashion.
Well, for me, when I just happened to stumble across a magazine in a Japanese bookstore, and I saw the Lolita fashion in the magazine, and I just fell in love with it because, a lot of girls, when we were young, we are dreaming of princesses and fairy tales, and these kind of thing can just
Yeah, actually, you can't imagine.
Yeah, we can relive our childhood dreams or something like that.
Yeah,
we are naturally attracted to feminine stuff. So yeah,
I mean, do you ever have a dream to wearing Cinderella dress for one day? And I have you can find it in Lolita fashion.
Yeah, and I was really surprised that people are actually designing this kind of clothing to be used as a normal fashion, instead of just a costume that you wear on a stage or something.
Yeah.
So I did more research about it, and then I started wearing it during my first year of university, and it has been 8 years.
8 years
since then.
She started way longer than
yeah.
This is such a beautiful world, so I wonder why it's not popular.
There are several difficulties that the Lolita has to face with. Firstly, it's a financial problem, since Lolita clothes and accessories are pretty expensive and hard to find. It's gonna be a problem for people. Not many people can actually have the ability to get into it. For example, a Japanese brand dress can often cost around $300 to $400, and a Chinese brand dress is cheapest, but it's still in the price range of $150 to $200. Comparing to the average income of Vietnamese people, this fashion style can be considered luxury and out of range for a lot of people, especially students.
So don't you have any way to lower down the cost?
Some choose to sew their own dress and make their own accessories. And this also leads to the burden of some Vietnamese Lolita brands, and they also expand their business overseas. But not everyone can do it yourself, so this is still a huge problem for newbies when they want to enter the subculture.
So I think that you can tailor-make them to lower the cost, right?
Yeah, actually there are several ways to cut down the money. But one more bigger reason that prevents people from getting into Lolita fashion is because of the unwanted attention that you might have faced with when you wear Lolita outside Vietnam. Unlike in Japan, where expressing your individuality through clothing and fashion is something that is encouraged, it is often frowned upon in Vietnam. I personally get into Lolita fashion when I was living in Japan, and I never feel hesitated to wear Lolita outside on a daily basis because no one cared. But when I went back to Vietnam and wear this kind of pretty clothing outside, people would often stare at me. They talk behind my back, and sometimes they even sneakily take photos of me without my permissions and post them online with rude comments.
Oh, it's so difficult, and I feel so sorry about that. But really, I have one more thing to ask you about the fashion name Lolita. Is there anything that related to the novel book called Lolita by Nabokov?
No, there's definitely no relation at all. But this is also one thing that I don't really like about Lolita fashion. As you know from the beginning of the program until now, Lolita fashion portrayed a very non-sexualized image of girl, unlike what is described in the novels. But because of the same name, people often assume that this is some kind of fetish, and because the name as a signifier is perceived differently in different cultures. So in Japan and for this fashion follower, it's just the name of a street style, but other people would raise an eyebrow.
So what do you think about future of Lolita in Vietnam?
To be honest, I can hardly see any chance for Lolita fashion to become mainstream in Vietnam, but I think there's plenty of room for it to be emerged into the mainstream fashion. We have several members in our community who study fashion design and study things related to art, and they do take influence from Lolita fashion to incorporate into their collection or into their arts. So I think there's definitely a chance for it to be mixed with Vietnamese culture. And apart from that, me and other members in the community are working hard every day to promote Lolita fashion in Vietnam. We believe that what we're doing is not just for gaining more fashion followers, but more than that, we think that we're hoping to encourage people to freely follow their dreams and to express their individuality without having to be tied down by what society considers normal.
I hope that you and your team will be success on the path that you choose. And thank you for sharing today.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for watching, and I will see you on the next episode. Bye-bye.
Bye.